We'll call this public session to order. And trustee Joy Naylor is unable to join us for this meeting. Trustee Megan Caseper Soleno will be joining us shortly. We do have a quorum. I will identify closed session topics. Public employee assignment, reassignment, appointment. Public employee discipline, dismissal, release. Conference with labor negotiator. Conference with real property negotiators. Conference with real property negotiators. This is a different site. This is 2.5. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, and anticipated litigation. Is there any public comment? There's no public, so there's no comment. And we'll adjourn to closed session. We'll convene our regular session. Welcome. Trustee Joy Naylor is unable to join us this evening. I will introduce the interpreter. Adam Avalos will serve as the Spanish interpreter for this meeting. Meeting attendees who would like to listen to the Spanish interpretation of the meeting, please pick up headphones from the table located in the back of the meeting room. This announcement will now be shared in Spanish.
Adam Ábalos servirá como intérprete al español para esta reunión. Invitamos a los asistentes de la reunión que deseen escuchar la interpretación al español, el ir por audífonos a la mesa ubicada al fondo de esta sala de reuniones.
This meeting is being webcast live and recorded. The meeting or webcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Any member of the public wanting to provide public comment on items listed on tonight's agenda, please fill out the public comment form. It's a green form. It's located on the table in the back of the room. Please hand the completed form to Administrative Assistant Delia Smart before the item comes up on the agenda. Please complete a separate form for each agenda item you'd like to comment on. Ms. Smart is sitting at the table in the back of the room. Members of the public providing public comment, please use the microphone at the stand and located in the front of the room. The Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by Board Member Dr. Villegas.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will report action taken in closed session. On a motion by Board Member Dr. Villegas and a second by Board Member Catalina Blair, the board agreed on a vote of 5-0 with 2 absent to appoint Krista Taylor to the position of Director of Educational Service, MTTSS and School Counseling. Is she here? Can you please stand? Okay, Krista Taylor currently serves as the coordinator in an Equity and Student Services Department. Prior to her employment with Visalia Unified, Ms. Taylor served Dublin Unified School District as an assistant principal for 6 years, was an assistant principal at Newark Unified for 3 years. Ms. Taylor served as a counselor at Bay Area School of Enterprise, Oakland Aviation High School, and Newark Unified for a total of 5 years. She also taught at Bay Area School of Enterprise for 2 years prior to becoming a counselor. Ms. Taylor holds a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology and Sociology and a Master of Arts in Counseling from St. Mary's College in California. She also holds a Pupil Personnel Services credential and an Administrative Services credential. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, congratulations to Ms. Taylor. There are revisions to the agenda and or enclosure items. There are revisions to the meeting handouts for this evening's meeting in enclosure number 12, 13, 14, 30, and 31. There's an additional item that needs to be added to the board meeting agenda. I will ask that the board take action to approve the adding the renewal agreement of Visalia Unified School District and Sequoias Community College District College and Career Access Pathway, CCAP. The agreement was received after the agenda was posted and needs to be approved before the first day of school. The agreement renews the existing college and career access pathways to offer dual enrollment courses at Golden West, El Diamante, and Mount Whitney High Schools, and at Visalia Charter Independent Study School. This item will be added to the consent agenda as item 6.4.7, enclosure 33. I need a motion for this.
I so move.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Board Member Casper Soleno, and the motion was made by Board Member Gamonian. All in favor? Need to read out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not doing my job. Okay. Motion carries 601 absent. Sorry.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is spotlight on good things happening in the district. Superintendent Schrum.
Remember, green light this time. All right, well, good afternoon, Board President Guerrero and board members. Pleased to present our spotlight on VUSD, summer edition continuing. Of course, this is the last one as school starts on Thursday. So we'll talk about that tonight as well. So a few things I want to spotlight tonight as we go through this. Whoops, too fast. All right. Just as a reminder, focusing on our priorities this year of being ready, being present, being successful, and being connected. So give a little spotlight today, and then also on the agenda for this report will be a continuing update on the superintendent's entry plan. As I shared, I would be doing this throughout the fall at various board meetings just to keep the public up to date on things that I said I was going to do, and then the results of that. So one of the things that was great, I believe this is the first time we are in a new sports league, Yosemite, East Yosemite League. And so we had a media day on August 1st to highlight fall sports, well attended by several of our media outlets. And one of the greatest highlights of events like this is hearing from the athletes. And so for the first time, we were able to do that, heard from a lot of our athletes, our athletic directors at the campuses, gave updates not only on football, but also on the other fall sports. And just a lot of excitement because, you know, we are back. And so we're able to proceed with our arts and our sports and other things. And so we look to grow this event, include other sports as well, and make this a you know, kind of every semester sort of thing for fall and winter, spring sports. Redwood FBLA did a great job. Future Business Leaders of America participated in a national competition, placed in the top 10 this summer in Chicago, Illinois. So you see some of the experiences the kids have got to have, and programs like this, Future Business Leaders of America, just one more way kids can be connected. And so as we talk about One Visalia Connected, how do we build and expand programs just like this and the many others that we have across all of our campuses? Summer internships. We were fortunate to have a student speak at our conference the other day. 98 career technical education high school students completed approximately 10,000 hours of summer internships. Absolutely wonderful, coordinated by our college and career readiness department. You see some images there from medical to automotive to technical, DA's office, lots of opportunities that existed. And so wonderful to see our students being able to engage in that firsthand experience. And, you know, whatever pathway that student chooses, whether that be college, career, programs like this help ensure their readiness. And then if you were around or trying to find a parking spot like me the other day, you notice we had hundreds of new teachers. And so there was just great excitement. I had the opportunity to speak to the new teachers last week, and they were here off and on for about a week before everybody else came back, just really so that we can invest in them. And I have to give a shout out, just wow, to our human resources and development group. I mean, they were here probably about 24/7 working on this, pivoting at the last minute when you had additional people join that you hadn't planned on, and bringing everybody back in person. And so I did walk in when they were on the image on the right. I had no idea what was going on. I just had to trust that, you know, it was good. And it was. So I still can't really tell you what it was, but it was good. And but anyway, a lot of excitement and just getting to meet the new teachers. We had new teachers, whether they were just beginning a career, you know, fresh out of college, and I thought maybe they were some students, but they were fresh out of college, all the way to second career individuals, and then also all the way to people who have chosen to come to Visalia Unified to teach from other districts. And so it was a really nice cross section of individuals. And I am so excited and can't wait to see the impact that they'll have on our district as they open their doors for some of them for the very first time. And some of us remember that feeling and never will forget it on Thursday. And so excited about them, and congratulations to all of our new team. And just a thank you again to all of the folks in this district who helped put this together. It was truly amazing. Thank you so much. And then another thing that, I want to continually report on, it was clear in the superintendent search survey, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute more, that 3 areas were identified by this community that we needed to address. And one of those was communication. And so thanks to this board for their support of building out the infrastructure for our ability to do this. As the 32nd largest district in California, almost 30,000 kids, we've got to get our message out. And if we're not getting our message out about the great things that are happening in the schools, the things we need to improve and what we're going to address, other people will tell our stories, or other people will believe certain things that may or may not be accurate about our amazing, hardworking teachers and our students who accomplish so much. So you're seeing the beginnings of this. You see a website banner for the first time. You see daily tweets, daily Facebook posts, daily other things that are going out talking about having the best first day ever. And again, different topics, whether it be the no cost breakfast or lunch or the overview. Another one will be coming out tomorrow and Wednesday on safety and health and all of those things. So, how we're making sure we're telling our families, hey, here's what you can expect when you come back to school. And so you're seeing this. You'll see a video here in a little bit as well that was put together by our team. Capabilities that we haven't had before and that are so important so that we can further spotlight and highlight our kids, our teachers, and the great things that are happening. So kudos to our communications team, Andre Visalia and others who are beginning to work to build a much more robust and responsive communication system for our community. And then, of course, our initiative was launched here this week and yesterday for our district staff at Convocation. And again, this is our One Visalia Connected initiative, where we're making the moonshot statement, right? We're going to connect 100% of our kids to something meaningful. Every kid is going to have a trusted adult at school that they can speak to, and every kid is going to be known. Those are some of our commitments. Now, we're not going to get there today. We're not going to get there in 1 year, right? But we have to start a journey. COVID disrupted connectivity. And even before COVID, we know we all had kids that were not connected. And the effects of that, right? We see it as students try to reconnect. I remember standing here, and I think it was March, early April, when I was announced as superintendent, and I was asked a question by a student reporter concerned about during COVID, their clubs and other things that they had at the high school had lost membership. And what can the new superintendent do to support them in building back their clubs? And so just again, beginning to get this concept of connectivity and reconnecting just kept emerging. And the other reason for this, when you look at the research, Centers of Disease Control and other entities out there, the data is very clear. Kids that are connected to something meaningful have better attendance, they have better grades, they feel better about themselves, and they're less likely to engage in risky behavior. So all the things that sometimes we see happening that are wrong, what if there was a way to address that? Yes, we still have to address conduct, right? But what if we created a way where eventually we didn't have to, right? Because if you're on a sports team, you go to class, right? If you don't go to class or you mess up, coach is going to hear about it. Club sponsors are going to hear about it. The band director is going to hear about it, right? Those kids are going to stay connected. And it's not just school. We're going to engage with our community. This is faith-based partnerships. This is business partnerships. This is internships. This is mentorships. But this is creating a system and a structure so that everybody in our community knows how they can engage with the school system. Because right now, some know, some don't. There's different information. I talked to this person, that person, and we want our community and we want to grow the programs that we have or that are successful. So we're going to begin this September you're going to see information coming out in the next few weeks once we get school started. A series of roundtables where we're going to bring business, industry, community, political, all that stuff, all those folks to the table, roundtable, where we're going to be able to say, hey, what do you need from us? We're going to be able to say, hey, here's what we need from you. And then we'll also have a session on what does it mean? Like, what are the do's and don'ts when you work with kids, background checks, all those things, right? So no matter what organization you are, we're all on the same playing field. And so then everybody knows how to do business, how to interact, how to do this and that. And so I just am convinced we can change lives for kids and our community if we connect with every kid. And so thank you for supporting One Visalia Connected. I look forward to what this is going to do as we further get down the road and build it out and continue to help everyone see how they can be connectors for our kids. So segueing a little bit into the update on superintendent's entry plan, last board meeting or a couple board meetings ago, talked a little bit about some of the information shared at our engagement sessions. And so we presented a presentation on some of the main themes that we heard. And so we're taking that information that will be factored into the work our board will be doing this next week on working to develop some of our beliefs and commitments. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the examine portion of it. Now, really, this began when I started to engage, right? Because one of the first pieces of information, but even before I interviewed, that I had access to that was presented to this board was the superintendent search survey results, which confirmed 3 major areas we needed to address: academics, safety, and communication. So some of the things that I did immediately in thinking about examining the system, I've used the quote before from Deming: every system is designed to get the results it's getting. The exact quote says perfectly designed to get the results. And so began to think about, well, what are the results of our current system? Listening to parents, listening to our board, who made it very clear, we expect more for our kids. What did the superintendent search survey reveal? Address that. And how is our system oriented to focus on student learning and outcomes? And I saw several areas of opportunity. And we did move pretty quickly. And the reason is our kids can't wait. So we couldn't wait a year to address some instructional, communication, and safety issues that were identified. Because once they were identified, we have to act, right? Because now we know. And so the evidence to answers to these questions led to several changes in our organizational chart and creation of our guiding priorities, which were the be ready, be present, be successful, be connected, right? And so you're seeing some of that now with the initiatives and other things. And so a couple of things we know, and I address these in the convocation. I don't think there's anyone that's proud of right now our student performance results. We have some pockets of greatness, of course, but there's a book I read that said one time, a star does not a constellation make. And so you think about if that one student that succeeded is the star, that's great, right? But we have 30,000 of them. And so how do we create a system where we're lifting the outcomes and performance of everybody? And it's going to take some time, but we have to address it. And I appreciate the board making it very clear to me, superintendent, you are tasked with changing outcomes for kids. And I have taken that very seriously, and that's why I'm here. And so a couple of things that we immediately worked on: orienting the district instructional organizational structure to align with the priorities identified. What do I mean? So when the community and the board said we need to talk about safety, I looked around. We didn't have a department that was focused on safety. We didn't have a department that was focused on just instruction and leading principles, right? And so we had to make some organizational changes because we can't change outcomes if we don't change the system. And so, what's the definition? I think it is of insanity, trying to do the same thing harder and getting the same results, right? That's not going to work. And so I appreciate the support to do some of this work. So we created some positions, about 10 positions, funded about $2.5 million, funded out of general funds and local control accountability funds to support things that were directly identified by our community and this board as areas we needed to address. You're now seeing some of the results of that. We now have a safety coordinator who's going to be going out to campuses, doing assessments. We now have a little bit more on a communications team that's starting to do better to communicate with our families both ways, right? We now have a division focused solely on learning and leading, because at the end of the day, that's what we're about. And so learning and leading has to be a key focus, right? Showing baseline student support performance data to generate goals. So this is some of the work we're getting ready to do. We're starting to see our data come back from the assessment students took in the spring. And so as that comes in, we're going to be analyzing that and determining where we are, what's the new baseline, and where do we need to go. And we're going to have some quick action that's going to take place because we got to disrupt what's happening right now. Provide academic tools to support teachers, instructional delivery, and enhance learning capabilities. So sharing at convocation, does every teacher have the resources they need? Do they know where their pacing and priority standards are? Does every kid what they need? Thank you for our family, this board's investment in our Family and Community Resource Center, right? So that we can ensure that every student has what they need to be successful. So it's really this year about the foundation. We've got to be good at what our core business is, which is instruction. First instruction. When that student walks into the door, they're getting high quality instruction. It is not left to chance that they get that one teacher on the grade level, because every teacher on that grade level is exceptional. It's not left to chance that if I go to this school, I'm going to have this outcome, but if I go over here, I may not. We are a school district, not a district of schools. And so then, of course, launching the One Visalia Connected initiative. So as the data begins to come back and we're able to start sharing it, which we can't right now, but as we're able to, we will be doing that. I believe in being transparent about where we are and where we need to go. And so that's the confidence I want our community to have in our leadership. So those are some of the actions we're taking right away. And before I close this report, I think we're going to play a short little highlight video from our convocation.
I've got a wonderful group of individuals this morning that I want to introduce you to. They're going to talk to you a little bit about how we help our students stay connected to school, because a connected child is a successful and a happy child.
What if each one of us sitting in this room took the time to get to know every kid, that we are a trusted adult, that every kid knows someone in that building, that we see talent and opportunity and potential in kids and we connect them, and make a commitment? What if in Visalia, every student was connected to something meaningful? I think there's a different approach that we can take in Visalia. I think there is a solution to many of the challenges that we have today, and I think it's connectivity. I challenge you to be the champion that every kid in Visalia deserves. There are so many people, just like at your school sites, that are behind the scenes, that do the work, that we wouldn't be here without them. The unsung heroes, I like to say. And so I just want to give a round of applause to everyone that helped out making this event possible. So thank you all. So thank you, board, and that concludes my report, but I remain available for any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public?
One.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item on the, oh, Jackie.
Not a question, but just shout out to our new media. I met him at convocation. Unfortunately, I don't remember his name right now, but he's doing an awesome job on his first couple videos.
Thank you. All right,
Oh,
so.
Real quick, also, I
ahead.
also want to highlight, at the press conference that we not only have that media, but our student media teams. I know we had Giant TV from Redwood High School. We had a student team from El Diamante also. So I just thought that was wonderful. And then they were also asking questions. So thank you to all of our student participants as well.
Any other comments? Thank you. So we're going to move on to our next item, which is 2023 back to school update. Enclosure number 2, Mr. Superintendent Schrum and members of the executive cabinet.
Well, thank you again, Mr. President and board members. We are ready. So each day we've been having operational readiness meetings with our cabinet team and others and pertinent directors and going over, is every school site ready? Are the buses ready? Is the food ready? Right? So that we can ensure on Thursday, we are ready to go. I'm pleased to say we are ready. We're ready for the best first day ever on Thursday. And as I get ready to talk about that, I do again want to do a reminder. It's been about 3 years since everybody got on the road at the same time. So if school starts, I'm just making up this start time, right? If school starts at 7:45 and you leave your house at 7:40, you're going to get into school around 9, right? So bring your patience. And if people bring their patience and just excitement that we're starting school back, we're going to have an exceptional first day. There's going to be traffic. You are not going to be able to find parking. You're going to have to circle. Just take a deep breath and be thankful that our doors are open and that our teachers are here. And if you're a little late, we are not counting tardies on the first few days of school. We'll give it time to get our processes down. Our crossing guards are just trying to help you and the kids get to school safely. So please don't yell at crossing guards, don't honk, don't get frustrated, right? Just be along for the ride. Tell your work you're going to be late probably on Thursday because you got to take your kid to school. So I think if we all do those things, let's just enjoy the moment and the fact that we're able to do this, that we're able to take our kid, all of that sort of stuff. And I think if we do that, we're going to have an exceptional first day. Take advantage of other opportunities, right? So maybe meeting the teacher on the first day. What if, take advantage of open house or take advantage of some of those other times. And remember on Thursday and Friday as well, that is not the time to have a parent-teacher conference, right? That teacher is working to make sure they know all the kids coming into their room and really speaking to elementary folks here, right? Your kids are in good hands. So hopefully you filled out all the information ahead of time. The only thing you need to do is say bye and drop the kid, right? And let the teacher bring those kids in and do what they need to do. They'd love to talk with you, but Thursday is probably not going to be the best time to engage in a conversation with the teacher, right? So let's enjoy it. I'm excited. I think our kids are excited. Our team is excited. We're ready. And we just need our kids back in class, which is the best place for them to be. So in our back to school update, we're going to talk about how we are ready for that day. Each division is going to give a quick update on final things families need to know. This will also, again, continue to be communicated out. And so we talked a little bit about our communication coming out. We're monitoring district readiness. So all throughout the first couple of days, executive cabinet members will be getting information from the area administrators who are getting information from the principals on what's working, what's not working, where are we having challenges, so that we're set up in real time to pivot and make changes and make adjustments if we need to based on what we may not know yet. So we will be doing that throughout the first few days and also doing a review at the end of the day. What went well? What do we need to improve for the next day? And then, of course, we've worked to provide clarity for school sites. We've standardized some of our safety practices this year. So every school presented the same PowerPoint because we can't leave safety and what we do in case of an emergency up to chance, right? There's evidence-based practices that we have to make sure our teachers and our school sites and district staff are equipped with. So all of those things are happening so that there's clarity around day one. So we are ready. I'll also add to this that some of us sometimes, have first day jitters, right? We might be a little bit nervous. And so pleased to present superintendent story time with the superintendent. We'll be publicizing that on social media and sending it out on our website. And so I'll be reading a story for, of course, any kid, any age is welcome to watch the story, probably more targeted toward our elementary students. But again, everybody's welcome to watch it. But I'll be reading a story for our families tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So hope you can tune in for that. So at this time, I'll turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Development, Ben Dillon.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, President Guerrero, members of the board, Superintendent Schrum. Kind of just the quick kind of high level things here. I mentioned 2 weeks ago when we shared with you that we are daily screening, interviewing, onboarding to fill positions. We continue to do so as evidenced in, I think, a couple of the enclosures there. You can see some pretty lengthy lists. I've shared with our principals as well that, this is a fast moving thing, right? So in the morning of Tuesday, we might be saying, hey, we're working on these 2 positions. And by midday Tuesday, it's 1 position. And by the next day, those are filled and we're moving on. So it's quickly evolving every moment of every day. But as Superintendent Strum mentioned, I've been able to step into a pretty fantastic team of people. And they're crushing it and working day and night to make sure that we're ready to go day one. So continuing to do that, we're coming to the kind of the final dominoes fall in terms of filling positions and filling the next position. And it's exciting to see just getting amazing people on board as we step into a new school year here. Superintendent Strum, I'm not going to say you stole my thunder, but it was really exciting. I'm just going to reiterate what he said in that we had over 140, about 145 new teachers, a new teacher week. I believe our educator support team said that might be a record. So that's pretty cool to see that many teachers. I don't know if it's necessarily a record in terms of number of new teachers coming in, but the number who came to new teacher week. So that's the other part. That's not a mandatory thing, although we highly encourage, and it's a huge support to prepare our teachers to step in. But we had a lot of people, a vast majority of them come. They were excited. There was so much energy coming into that week. He got to see some of that, the creativity and the fun that was happening and just bringing people onto our teams. The nice thing about that is not only are they here, but that part of that week is they're here and then they're at their school sites. And so there's just multiple opportunity, multiple layers of preparedness that are taking place. And then the final thing, just want to make sure that you all know, in addition, obviously, we still do have some classroom teaching positions that we're working to fill, some small spots there. But that said, it's been really neat to kind of work with our area administrators, work with our subs office and our human resources department, coordinate and get feedback from principals so that for those last few spots, even those ones that we are getting a permanent teacher in place, we have qualified teachers who are going to be in those positions working with our guest teachers. Every one of our classrooms will have a qualified teacher coming into day one for school, and we're ready to go. Can't wait. So thank you very much. And Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Good evening, Board President Guerrero, Superintendent Shrum. So I get the opportunity of talking about learning and leadership day one preparations. First thing I want to say is the last 2 days, our principals have been working hard with their staffs, preparing them, doing trainings, PD, supporting them, and really focusing on that quality first instruction, making sure everyone has the resources they need to be prepared for day one, and that we have that consistency across our entire district, that is our focus. Curriculum is prepared, ready to go. Everyone has what they need in their classes, should be ready to go on the first day. Tomorrow is a big day for our teachers as well, as this is an opportunity for them to do final preparations for their classrooms. So that way they can make them extra special for their students on the first day of school. A couple of reminders for our families is Thursday morning is going to be a rough one if you don't have a routine already in place. So what I would encourage anyone that can hear my voice as a parent, just an idea is start getting your students into that routine of getting to bed a little earlier now. So Thursday, they'll be well rested and ready to go. And they're getting that routine of getting up a little bit earlier in the morning than they probably have this summer. On Thursday and Friday, as Superintendent Shrum already has shared, is here's the reality of it. Being a couple minutes late is something you probably won't remember in your life. But if you're driving around a school and you hit someone, you're going to remember it for the rest of your life. Let's slow down. Let's take a deep breath. At the end of the day, sometimes we have long-term consequences when we do short-term because we're so fixed on time and that. So we just ask, enjoy the first day. We are so excited to have families on campuses on the first day and to have that opportunity. But again, take a moment, relish it, take that picture with your student, take a deep breath. And when we're driving around, please slow down. Please be mindful of, we have our most valuable resources walking around. So just be mindful of that. On Thursday, parents, great opportunity. That parents and guardians, and if you can get your 12th grader to let you walk them to school, you're amazing. But you do have that flexibility on the first day of school. That parents, if you would like to walk your student onto campus and give them a hug and a kiss in front of their peers, we would love for you to do that, especially secondary sites. That would be amazing. You'd be amazed. That can happen. So you do have the ability on Thursday. Friday, we are going to ask that we're TK and K parents, if you would like to do that for the second day to kind of get them in that routine, feel free to do so. We will allow TK and K parents on Friday to go ahead and drop their students off at the camp inside the campus. On Monday, we will be following our protocol, our typical protocol, which is all visitors do check in at the office and go from there. But again, we want to make this first day great. And that's why we're opening up our campuses to providing that opportunity. So again, tonight, maybe after board meeting, that might be a good time for them to go to bed, or maybe even a little earlier than that. So we'll see how we get out of here tonight. But thank you. And I want to hand it off to Mr. DeMayo with Educational Services.
Thank you, sir. President Guerrero, Superintendent Schrum, school board members, thank you for allowing us this time this evening. My name is Andy DeMayo, and I am the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. It's a pleasure to be with you all tonight. One thing I want you to remember about our division is our goal is to make sure every child in our district is well taken care of. Every child gets what they need to be successful. And I'm excited to share that the things we're doing, oh, wait a minute. There we go. It's the pencil. The things we're doing are the things that are necessary to make sure your child is feeling safe and secure and ready to start the year, as well as our teachers. So I listed some of those things for you. A lot of the work we've done in educational services has taken place over the summer, making sure our staff is prepared to start the year in a positive fashion. You'll see some things like restorative practice training, social media opportunities, positive discipline training. Keep in mind that while some of these sessions happened over the summer, what's going on this week is our school sites are taking advantage of the information and sharing it out to our site staff. So again, as Mr. Schrum said, everyone's prepared. Everyone has that consistent message to talk about. Some other things I want to make sure you're aware of is our family community resource center. If you guys haven't had a chance to stop by there, this is everyone in the community. I strongly encourage you to visit. It's this kind of well-kept secret that we're hoping to grow. That's just a wonderful place to provide all kinds of resources for everyone in our community. Things like making sure every child is prepared for school. They have the clothes to wear. They have haircuts. They feel good about what's going on. That service is going to continue, and it's going to continue to expand throughout the year. We're really excited about that. Another thing that you'll get to see this year, and thank you, board, for your partnership, is through our Extended Learning Opportunity Program. This is a program that, as you know, the state has asked us to create more opportunities for our students. We know through the past 3 years, our students have suffered, and we know they need more opportunities to engage in the school systems. And I'm not talking about another 2-3 hours a day of forcing them to sit through curriculum. Curriculum department, no offense, but our kids need to do other things, right? So we're looking at chances this year to do lots of those things. You guys have been generous to provide some extra staffing. Our schools this year are going to have new library media technicians, which are going to allow us to keep facilities open for an extended period. Every child who wants to take part in this program this year is going to be welcome. And that's at every one of our elementary schools. That's a change this year. So we're really excited about that. I'm going to be talking, by the way, in the next presentation in a little bit more detail about the Extended Learning Opportunity Program, just so you're aware of that. Our families on the first day will also be reminded about things like dress code, code of conduct, right? We know that every child will care if they know we care. So our job is to make sure they have the tools and resources necessary to be successful, and we're going to make sure that happens. So next up, let me invite my good friend, Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Andy. Good evening, Board President Guerrero, Board, Superintendent Schrum. I'm going to go over just a couple of things very quickly. The first one, we're super proud of this one. All of our kids have no-cost breakfast and lunch all year. And it looks like that could possibly last for a few more years. So we're really pleased about that. Second thing about transportation, I did check in with them today. All the routing has been completed and transmitted to the school sites. So all the routes are there. The school sites have those. We've been reaching out as we get calls from parents to answer their individual questions. They can either call the school site for that information or reach out to transportation directly. The maintenance projects, I did walk some sites today and I talked with my maintenance director. They just completed this afternoon, a couple of days late really, or a day late, 26 portables were placed this summer. All the transitions are done. The paving is done, the technology has been installed, all the power is in, they're ready for students. So a day early, not as early. We wanted to hit it last Friday, but they did get it finished yesterday. So happy to report that. Additional maintenance projects are finishing up right now. And then contingencies for the modernization projects. I did walk Crowley today. That is the one project that is still going to be ongoing for quite some time into the year. And we do have plans in place for the approach for families and the drop off. We've communicated that to families. It's gone out on Blackboard today. And then as far as our air purification and our indoor air quality, that has all been completed. Filters have been changed, systems have been serviced, and we have PPE available at all of our sites. So with that, if there are any questions, Mr. Hernandez.
Thanks, sir. Good evening, President Guerrero, members of the board, and Mr. Shrum. I've got, last but not least, business services. We're going to focus on tech services, as that's the closest thing that we do to the classroom. Budgets are posted, money's ready, but on the tech services side, when in our press conference on last week, we were asking students to make sure their devices are turned on, connected, they're working, so that when they come to school on Thursday, they're going to get instruction that first day, so that we want to make sure that they can work. And if not, that they are reaching out to someone on their site on the first day to get those connected. A little bit of a change for this year for our students who are in TK through third grade. We've set up classrooms with Chromebook carts, and so they will stay in the classroom overnight unless there is a specific reason for them to go home for a lesson or video or something that the teachers assigned. For our students who are in grades 4 and 9, they will get a brand new device this year. Students in other grades who have older devices who might need a replacement can still get a replacement if they need to. But in 4th and 9th, that will be part of our annual cycle to replace Chromebooks, and we'll be expanding that as needed. We do still have hotspots available. So if a student needs access to the internet from home, we have hotspots that they can pick up at their school site. And then lastly, all of the placement letters for elementary students have gone home. They are in mailboxes or already on the family's countertops and ready for them to start school on Thursday. And with that, I believe that is the end of our presentation tonight. We're here for any questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question for Mr. Kerr. Starting Monday, when visitors have to, check in regularly, what does the implementation look like for the Raptor systems that we approved?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Hamilton on that because he's been working a little more closely with it than I have.
Yeah, so we've just signed the agreement with them, so we'll start implementation. Goal is to have the visitor monitor system probably late September.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody all across our staff, all these moving parts. Really excited for the best first day ever.
I did, if I could add, I did share a tweet today. Fresno Unified just implemented that system, I noticed. So the visitor management system. So we may get some ideas from them.
And I had a question. I'm not sure which one it would go to, but I'll just shout it out there. Let's say that a parent is driving by on Thursday morning and is like, oh my God, I never got around to enrolling my kid in kindergarten. How is it August already? Big oopsie. What do they do? Do they call the district? Do they call the school? How do they get, or do we still have openings? What's going on with that?
So great question. I'll answer that one for you. It's always going to your school site. So the school site will work with them. It will be busy tomorrow in the offices. I can probably promise you, yes. People will not know what classes they're in or things like that. We have to work through. But again, they're going to go to their school site. They're going to work with them and they will help get them enrolled, get them all set up and prepared. If there is an issue with room or things like that, they will work with that family and give them those options so that they can be prepared.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And what if they don't know their school site?
Well, great question. So we do have on our website, you can look up your address there. But another thing is this, go to the school that's closest to you and ask them and they will help you. Again, if you do that at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, might not be the best time to do that as there'll probably be a lot of people there. But again, you can go to any of our school sites and they have that information. But if not, you can also look on the website.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Okay, seeing that there's none, we'll thank you for the presentations. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda. Our next item is 4.3, Expanded Learning Opportunities, ELOP Plan. Assistant Superintendent Andy DeMayo.
Thank you, board, for welcoming me back up. I appreciate the opportunity. And let me just say that this is a great night to hear the highlights about what's going on. I know our families and students are super excited. I remember well when my girls were ready to kind of start those first days of school. So I appreciate all the effort that all the different divisions have gone into to putting this together. And this particular presentation tonight is kind of one of those exciting things that it's going to be a real added benefit to our families this year. And I know we're going to have a lot of families who are excited about taking advantage of it. So let me just share a little bit with you. By the way, this is an action item tonight, folks. So board members, please listen carefully if you have any questions, because when you're done, I'm going to be asking you to make a motion. All right. So as we know, Mr. Shrum has done an amazing job being very specific with the rationale behind the reason things are taking place. So what I want to make sure you understand is the points of this process and how it's going to evolve over the years. This is a huge campaign that the state has asked all the schools in the state of California to undertake, and we're definitely on that journey. We're not there yet, but we have a wonderful start. And I want to make sure you understand kind of what that trajectory is going to look like for us. So to start with, and the thing that's most exciting is we are going to be starting our extended learning opportunity program at every elementary school on day one. Students are going to have the opportunity to come before school and stay after school until 6 o'clock if they so choose. We're not turning anyone away. We've been doing applications already. We don't have any wait lists at any of our schools. And as we see those populations growing, we're going to be working with our partners to extend those opportunities for them. Right now, currently, as we're starting, we're partnering with the Pro Youth Heart Program. That is one partnership we're having in the community right now. It's a great one for us to start with because we already have established relationships with them. They were at almost all of our schools over the past few years. We've got relationships with them, the employees, the principals, and their wonderful director. So it's a wonderful way for us to start in a system that's already there. Again, this is opportunities for students to do lots of things, not just academics. There's going to be lots of fun, engaging things for them to do to get them excited and wanting to come. One main difference for our families to understand is in years past, there were time restraints, right? Where you'd have to stay there till, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night. I'm exaggerating, but you'd have to stay there a long time, right? Now our families have the opportunities to be a bit more flexible. So it'll work better for their schedules. And we know that's going to be something that's going to, again, work individually for each of their families. Another thing to keep in mind is all of our elementary schools are going to be open up at 7:30. I mentioned in the last presentation that one of the ways we're doing that is by the addition of those positions at the elementary school sites that you guys were gracious enough to grant us. We created a new position in the spirit of knowing that we've got these new supports involved. These positions are more involved in technology, in working with students on curriculum and working on engaging activities. This position is going to be growing, but just so you know, they're going to be there. The libraries are going to be open from 7:30 to 4:30 at all of our elementary schools at each of the days. So they're going to be a great partner in through this process. And again, you guys were gracious enough to do that. That was a huge undertaking. We hired 27 of these new positions, and they're amazing people. Just a side note, when we did interviews for these people, most of them were our district employees, and we did, I don't know, 39 interviews on that one day. Every single employee was on time for the interview, not a minute late. And for someone who does a lot of interviews, the fact that every single one of them was anxious and excited about coming to us was a huge excitement thing for us. I was sharing with Ms. Gaby earlier, we're seeing an increase in the interest in our school district. So it's great to be able to put in place in all of our school sites, wonderful staff members who are passionate about kids, who are going to do great things with this new program. Another thing to be aware of is, again, we talked about the starting point. So what Mrs. Reed, who is our director of the program, is going to be working on is working with our community to find out, as we build this program, what's the need? What do our families want? What do they see for their students? We know they know their children best. What are the types of things they want to see to help their children grow, be connected to school, and certainly grow in their student scholastic ability and also in their ability when they get older. We're also working with our new directors in our district. You guys, again, helped us add a director of athletics, a director of VAPA. We're going to be working closely with those individuals to help, again, create systems that we know are going to be engaging to kids. We're working closely with our elementary principals. They're partnering with us on this. So we're creating programs that are going to be good for everyone. And then most exciting, we're going to be growing this program on a 7-12 basis. Again, we know the ELOP program was designed to be K-6, but we know the need is there for 7-12. So as we continue to work on this program and get better and get smarter and understand what the need is, we will be working on creating these opportunities for students at all grade levels. And again, we want to make sure that what we're doing is sustainable. So we don't want opportunities at one school that might not necessarily be offered at other schools. So for someone like me who loves change and who loves to jump in and get things done, we want to make sure we're going slow to make sure that we can go fast in the future. So as we go through this process, we will be bringing back to you updates about where we are, what we're doing, where we're thinking of going in the future in a way that hopefully will make sense, and we'll have opportunities to kind of ask ourselves what's going on with that. All right. And with that said, I'll entertain any questions. And once we're done with that, I would love for you guys to make a motion to pass this if you would.
Any questions by any board members, comments?
I have a question. Similar to Trustee Soleno's earlier question, I know we're offering this for all of our elementary students. For middle schools and high schools where we might possibly have wait lists, what's the process for a parent to enroll their child?
So we still have partnerships available with our middle schools and high schools as well. So we still have programs in place. They're not quite part of this just yet. So if they have those questions, certainly reach out to the school site. Again, we work with Pro Youth Heart, and they're wonderful about adding staff when they need to. Another exciting thing, they did a job fair with us, gosh, about 2 months ago, where we both were looking for those classified employees, and the results and responses we got was amazing. So Mary is very proud to say that she's fully staffed on the first day. She's ready to go just like we are. And again, she's also looking to grow her program as well. So there'll be great opportunities for us in the future.
So question about Heart. Should parents be notified by Heart? You said there's no waiting list. Are they all just like staying the first day? Do they work directly with Heart or call the school itself? There's a bunch of questions in there, but.
Well, yes. So it is through Heart. So they fill out applications just that they have done typically. The Heart program will be notifying parents before the first day just to make sure that they know they're in. The school sites will be provided with a list as well. Just like Mr. Shrum was saying, it's going to take a little bit of patience the first couple of days. Just know that our school sites are prepared. You know, the teachers aren't just going to let kids go without a clear understanding of where they're all going. But yes, to answer your question, the Heart people will be reaching out.
Thank you.
And I love that the libraries are going to be open at 7:30. That's just so amazing. So there's some kids will maybe get dropped off early, but not stay later type of thing, right? Now, some of those libraries on the campuses are so small. I mean, what do they do if they have a really small library and a large amount of kids that want to
Great
come?
question. So one of the things Mrs. Reed and her department is going to be doing the first few days of school is visiting all of the schools to analyze what that's going to look like. Because you're right, we don't know. One school could have 200 kids show up, one school could have 5. So Michelle and Jeff are going to be out at our school sites figuring out, okay, this school seems to have a big interest, and perhaps it's a big interest on Tuesday, but not Wednesday, so that we can figure out, okay, so perhaps for this site on this day, we need to find a space for them to go to be prepared. Perhaps it's a mobile library. Perhaps it's an area we put in some other equipment. That's what I'm saying when we're talking about growing the program to kind of see what the need is. We don't exactly know what the need's going to be just yet. However, we've got a starting point to get us going. And as we work through the program and we start to kind of figure out what's going on, we'll see what the need is. So Michelle has let all of our principals know, I'm going to be at your school site. So don't get nervous if you see those of us walking around. Mr. Shrum has made it very clear to them that all of us are going to be at sites a lot, right? Because it doesn't make any sense if I sit in my office all day. Lord knows I could answer emails 20 hours a day, but that's not the fun stuff for us to do. So we're looking forward to kind of being part of this process.
And one more quick question. And I love the flexibility about how parents are going to be able to choose whether or not, you know, they get out at 3, 4, 5, 6. That being said, are we providing a snack or some sort of nutrition for our students who are staying after school? And what does that look like? Or are we encouraging parents to pack additional snacks if they're staying later, et cetera?
Great question. So the HEART program also has the benefit of providing providing food at no cost to our students so that they definitely will have the opportunity to do that. And depending on how long they stay, it kind of depends on how many snacks they're going to be getting. And they're really good. So it's not quite a meal, but it's much more than like a granola bar type thing. So it's quite good.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a couple. The outlying areas.
Mhm.
Take into account what Dr. Villegas just mentioned. All right, so where parents are choosing different days and times. What about transportation?
Mhm.
Some of the kids, they live out there.
Mhm.
How is transportation going to be provided?
At
And
this
I'm
point,
specifically talking about like Ivanhoe
Sure.
and Goshen, those places.
sure. Perhaps at this point, again, that's one of the things we have to survey to see. I mean, I remember my time when I was at Annie Mitchell, for example. We had a bus that would go at 4 o'clock and then again at 6 o'clock for my students who lived out at our Linnell camp. And we partnered with the HEART program to do that. So that's certainly something we could look to add to the program if we see that the need's there. Because you're right, we don't want students to not come because transportation is an issue. We've got the opportunity, we've got the funding. If that's the need that's there, we'll absolutely look into that.
Well, and you just brought something up right there. What about other providers? When the Extended Learning Opportunity Program was being discussed, I
Mhm.
said, well, what about the Boys and Girls Club? What about the City of Visalia, Hernandez Community Center, Whitman Center, Hart Hazard Whitman Center? You just mentioned the Nell Camp.
Yep.
Are we gonna do anything in those other off-campus sites under ELO?
In my early thinking, I would say absolutely. We're trying to figure out what the need is. Again, I remember during the days when I was at Annie Mitchell, our teachers would go out there, the HEART program would go out there, and we would teach programs out there. So if that's where the need is, absolutely want to do that. So when we talked earlier about surveying the community, talking to our site staff to figure out what the need is, that will also help us know which community partners to reach out to see who wants to kind of be a part of this process.
Okay, were you gonna say something? No, I was talking to Martin. Okay, so my other question, it has to do with field trips.
Mhm.
I've been looking at the ELO programs in other school districts. Specifically, I saw something out there in Fresno. And they were talking about going up to the Sequoias and whatnot, or even one program was doing something last year during the winter break in terms of going up to the snow, those things. Now I'm specifically talking, I just was in Ivanhoe last week and they were having summer night lights and I was talking to some of the parents there and they were talking about field trips for their kids and whatnot. And they said, well, in that area, most of the kids are farm workers and a lot of them haven't even been up to the mountains out here. They
Right.
haven't been to the Sequoia National Forest.
Mhm.
And so specifically, I'm saying, hey, can we get a little bit more creative in terms of field trips, taking these kids? Let me give you an example. It's summertime right now. I was there for summer night lights. It was 100 and something. And they were saying, well, we don't have any opportunities out here to go swimming. Swimming's in Visalia.
Mhm.
If we do extended learning opportunity programs, will that be available for them? And that brings another question, because I know our high schools have, competitive sports and swimming and water polo and things like that. But you understand what I'm saying?
100%. And again, a good example of that, remember, extended learning opportunity is not just extended day, it's also extended year. So this past summer, we did have opportunities to do lots of those type of things. We took field trips. We took kids out of the current environment to kind of expose them to different things. That's definitely going to be a part of the program because again, we know those are high interest things that will help keep kids connected to school. So perhaps it's things like swimming, perhaps it's things like, going up to Fresno, visiting schools, visiting fun places in town. You're right. Many of our students haven't had the opportunities to reach outside of their boundaries. This is a great funding source for us to be able to do that in a safe environment with people who are properly trained to do it. So to answer your question, absolutely, if field trips are included in this.
I don't have any more questions. I'm looking forward to see what develops out of the extended learning opportunity program. And so at this time, I'd like to entertain a
One more question. So in looking at the actual plan, so it mentions Heart in there, and I know that you spoke already about expanding beyond that, and they're a great partner and agree with everything that they're ready to go. But in approving this plan, then what happens? Like as we reach out and develop more opportunities, because, like I don't see a date. Like, is it just this until we plan something else and then it comes back? Or like, what does that look like to transitioning into?
To add
Yeah.
new to it. Well,
Mhm.
keep in mind, the plan you're approving right now is the umbrella conceptual plan for the coming school year. We'll be coming back to you each year to talk about it. So if we look to add different programs, different opportunities, your approval is allowing us to move forward with those talks. We would be coming to you asking to do those different things. I'll be coming in periodically to kind of share where we are on that journey. We've done this successfully. We've checked our data. We find that what we're doing right now is very successful. Maybe this particular data piece is showing, maybe we want to course correct on that a little bit. So then we'll be able to come back and say, hey, now we're ready to start this. Now we're ready to start a 7th grade program, perhaps, with this particular partner on the outside agency.
So approving this plan doesn't prevent us from also adding other people. Like it
That's
doesn't
correct.
box us into only Heart.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just a start, just a starting point for us.
Then I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Board Member Gaby, second by Case Soleno. All in favor?
Motion carries 6-1 absent. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Board.
Our next item on the agenda is general public comment. General public comment on any school-related topic may be heard at this time. The board asks that any public comment on an item listed on tonight's agenda be addressed at the time the item comes up for discussion by the board. Pursuant to board policy, the board may limit individual comments to no more than 3 minutes and individual topics to 20 minutes. It is recommended you begin by your comments by stating your name. Crystal Reynolds.
Good evening, Board, President Guerrero, and Superintendent Schrum. My name is Crystal Reynolds, and I am the mother of 3, with 1 child attending the school district this year. And as you may have noticed, that's 1 less than I've been reporting. As of today, my husband and I have withdrawn our youngest daughter from VUSD, and we will be homeschooling her this year. I want to make clear to her school site staff, support staff, and educators that this decision is in no way due to the educators there or staff. We have been truly happy and blessed to be part of Hurley Hawks. They are an amazing family there. I also want to note that at this time, we are not discounting the possibility of a return for next year, should we see necessary changes within the district that we feel are important to help her succeed. Over the last 2.5 years, this board has made unified decisions that have kept our district's children's, educators, and families with some of the most restrictive measures and procedures due to fear. These measures have had devastating consequences and have ultimately affected our students academically, physically, and emotionally. From forced masking to forced quarantines, forced testing, and forced disclosure of vaccination statuses, our kids and staff have lost a tremendous amount of educational time, and we as a community have lost faith and respect for the system. Our kids have also lost the support system as parents have had to jump through hoops just to be on campuses. And often there have been challenges just for parent concerns to be heard. Well, honestly, I can say that I am very excited about the new initiative and new focus areas that are coming along with our new superintendent and his acknowledgement of a need for local control. I can't say that I trust that this board won't go back to voting on restrictive measures should the state start handing down orders. And because of that uncertainty and lack of clarity, we have decided to homeschool. I want my daughter to have as much uninterrupted educational time as she possibly can with her parents. And I don't want to have to worry about missed days due to quarantine exposures or missed days with her teacher due to absences from quarantines. From the perspective of a parent withdrawing their child from VUST, it is my humble opinion that this board needs to work on establishing trust with the community through transparent communication and actions. Don't just say it, do it. And do everything with consideration of the input of your constituents. I believe that VUSD has a tremendous amount of potential, and with appropriate leadership, focus, and attention to action, the possibilities are endless for this district. I wish you all, the board and the community, the best luck on VUSD's best first day ever. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, no more public comment. We're Going to move on to our next item on the agenda, case Beer Soleno. All in favor?
Motion carries 6-1 absent.
Okay, enclosure number 4 is the warrant list. Mr. Villegas.
Sure. As previously mentioned, I have a sibling who is employed by somebody who does business with the district, and therefore to avoid any perception of a conflict of interest, I'll be abstaining from the warrant list.
I need a motion and a second. Motion by Board Member Case Beer Soleno.
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Blair. All in favor?
Motion carries 5-1 absent, 1 abstention.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is board member reports. We'll begin with, not yet. I know you're excited. School hasn't started yet. Okay, so I'll start board member reports with Board Member Blair.
Okay, I got to go to social media and internet night that Mr. Gridiron put on last week, and he did a really great job, honestly. Just sharing with parents the things that are a lot of statistics, a lot of explaining what's going on in social media and how to protect our kids, how from just telling us about the different social media sites, what's what parent protections you can put in on some and what you can't on others. And then just showed us how to protect our kids' phones even more, which was actually really helpful. And he is going to be putting all of that slide deck and links up on our website soon as well. I also got to go to the parent preview for Redwood High School Band, which was amazing. They've just done such a good job. I know that the band works incredibly hard. Like my daughter went to band camp and I kept calling it boot camp all week long because they were there for so long. But they're just happy and they just look like they're having so much fun. It was just great to see all of the kids dancing together on the field, listening to music. It just felt super normal and fun. And then there was a little barbecue afterwards. It was great. And then I got to go to 2 Meet Your Teachers this morning, one for my own kids, and then I got to go to Denton's as well. And I just also want to thank Mr. Shrum and everyone that helped put on the convocation. It was amazing. I've only been to 1 convocation and it was epic. And just thank you to all of the administrators and teachers for just change is hard. Change can be hard, but everyone came in with so much faith and excitement and hope for the new year. So I'm just so excited to get kids connected. And you can tell that there is just excitement in the air. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Case Beer Soleno.
Yeah, I wanted to do a shout out to the summer interns. I do work at the public defender's office, and we had a fresh batch of them this summer, and they were just fantastic. They helped us out so much. They're so eager. I was even laughing because I think about 4 or 5 of them came one day to watch me in court, and I didn't do anything exciting. I promise you, it was mostly just like submitting on stuff. And afterwards, they're like, "You're amazing. You're the best." Like, but I think it just goes to show you like their level of wanting to have mentors and connect with people and really being excited to be in a workplace like that. And so I really enjoyed connecting with them. And then Redwood High School gave a bunch of us little like tote bags or like little gift bags for having them in our office this summer. So thank you to the Law Academy at Redwood. I know that there was some teacher somewhere stuffing all of those things together, and that was much appreciated by our office. I'm looking forward to our board planning session that's coming up before our next meeting. Looking forward to the first day of school. I'm hoping to go to a couple sites with Mr. Shrum if I can. And of course, dropping off my own daughter for her first day of school. And then I did go to kindergarten orientation tonight at Mountain View, which was very wonderful. And all the kiddos are so excited. And so I think the excitement of the first day is definitely going around. So thank you everyone for the hard work you've been doing. And I'm looking forward to the year.
Thank you. Ms. Gaby.
Yes, I will definitely echo convocation. It was fabulous and the energy in there was fabulous and everybody with their school shirts and pride. It was a great morning and super excited for to send my own children back to school and super excited to go home and tell my junior and my sixth graders that I get to walk them to class. And with that, I'll end my report so we can get to the budget revisions.
Okay, Dr. Villegas.
Yeah, like all of you, like everybody, I'm very excited for the best first day ever. And I really want to express my deep appreciation to all of our Visalia Unified team at every site for really working to create a safe, inclusive, exciting environment. With several of you, I got to attend freshman orientation last week at El Diamante for the class of 2026, which is insane to hear out loud. But I want to thank not only our teachers, our staff members there, but also our students, because these link crew leaders are that first welcoming face to many of our, middle schoolers who are transitioning to high school. It's a little nervous, right? It's a time, but just really so excited to see our students stepping into these leadership positions, mentoring each other, and really being there for each other and making this smooth transition. I also got to visit Denton Elementary today, where students had the opportunity to tour campus, meet their teachers, and were treated to some root beer floats. So thanks to Principal Gendron and her team for putting on such a welcoming and fantastic event. And one thing I also noted with our new teachers and meeting some of our staff members at Denton was just how many of our staff members are really homegrown, right? Students that grew up in VUSD, went off to college or stayed here and got their education and then came back and want to give back to their community. And I just love seeing that. It's something I try to tell all of my students is come back, whether it's work experience, life experience, but just come back to your community and give back. So really grateful to see that. Also had the opportunity to go to our high school marching band camps. So I made it out to almost every single one. I still have one more to go to, but was trying to treat them to some Otter Pops because they are working out there, sweating. They are, building teamwork with one another. And I'm so excited to root for all of our sports teams, our bands, our, cheerleaders, every single one of our teams this fall. So looking forward to that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Ms. Gamonian.
I also went to freshman orientation at El Diamante. Mr. Evans did a great job and it's really fun to watch freshmen, they're a little hesitant, but they were all involved when you look up in the stands. I went to the parent band preview at Golden West and at Redwood, and they sounded wonderful. And yeah, I just want to thank those band teachers out there for, in that hot heat, getting their kids ready. I went to Denton today. It was really sweet when I saw some of the kids in the specialized learning center. So excited to be at school and, kind of stealing the show from the teachers. It was just so cute. This one little guy, hey, everybody, how are you? He was so excited to get back to school. We launched our One Visalia Connected initiative. I am very excited about that. That's very near and dear to my heart, that every child has some kind of connection to our city and our community. Convocation was amazing. I laughed, I cried. And I think some of the things that just really affected me was when Mr. Shrum just encouraged our staff, because COVID was a hard time, but you know what? They showed up. Everybody showed up. Our staff showed up, our classified showed up, our teachers showed up, our kids showed up. They showed up. And we did the best we could and we came through it. And now we're turning the page. And there was such hope and joy in that room. So thank you, Mr. Shrum. Thank you. I just have a deep appreciation for our teachers, our classified staff, our administrators. You guys have the best day ever.
Yeah. So in my report, as I mentioned earlier, I spent some time in Ivanhoe. I was there with Dr. Gonzalez, the principal, and with some community members, and we were talking about things out there and it's a different perspective when you're out in the rural areas rather than being in the city. And that's why I was asking the questions that I was asking earlier. I also attended the Aldiamante freshman orientation, and it was it's kind of interesting how Mr. Evans just, you see him here and then he's up there in the bleachers. I don't know how he did that, but he was around everywhere. Press conference, I've said it before, but I actually commend our student newspaper reporters. They're out there, and every time I've read articles, and I mean, you know, I'm not saying anything bad about the newspapers we have out there, but our student newspapers, they really grind it. They go out there and they ask a lot of questions, and good questions at that. I also went to the Golden West band camp, the final performance before the school year, and I had a real good time out there. And before I went there, and I knew Ms. Camonia was going to be there, and I told her, please take a luncher. Because, you know, I've been there before. My grandkids all were, not all of them, most of them were in band. And I knew that you go out there and it's hot and sweaty and it's, you know, humid is what it was Friday. And then you know, you take a luncher and you're there with the parents and whatnot. The convocation, that was really, you know, something special and something that we haven't done in 3 years. And I've been through a few convocations in the years past. They're all different, but you know, this being on the camera, whatever, on the web, like we did last year, it was flat. This year, I believe the message that our superintendent sent was very, very important, very special. And I think you talked a lot about you brought up where you used to work and some of the schools that had everything, all the advantages, and then some of them that didn't. And, you know, that's why I was mentioning Linnell Camp, you know, I'm worried right now about some of our students who are out in Patterson tracks and the Lincoln Oval and those places to make sure that they get their education as well. And I know we have great schools at those locations, Highland, Houston, Crowley, you know, and, you know, those things concern me. I think, you know, earlier when I was talking about transportation, we do, and we have had after school programs before, but transportation is critical, especially when you have kids from the Lincoln Oval. When you expand to middle school, they have to cross from Mount Whitney through the Lincoln Oval into those neighborhoods out there. And there's some areas that you don't want to have kids walking through, you know, that's why I was talking about that. But feel good. I'm excited about Thursday. You know, I'm really excited about it. And I just want to thank everybody that has put everything in order. You know, everybody, all the divisions, all the staff. When I was asked what to say at convocation, I was trying to make sure that we highlighted our classified, our certificated, but also our management. Okay, just make sure that everybody's there because it's one district. It's not just one side or whatnot. So with that, I'll turn it over to the superintendent for his report.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. President. Again, love the humidity comment. I'm not sure that qualifies from Georgia, but I know I'll take it. It is actually, I enjoyed a little humidity. I'm like, okay, let's have that. Just kidding. But we are excited. We are ready. Again, just reminders for families, be patient, but bring that excitement, bring that energy. Looking forward to the story time with the superintendent tomorrow. So that will be sent out and publicized as well. We'll be continuing our communication and all of those pieces so that we're ready. I you know, again, want to echo our staff, our teachers, our principals, classified, certificated district staff, everyone has been working nonstop to make sure we're ready. And so I just applaud them. I don't think we can say thank you enough for what they do. So thank you all. And because of them, we are going to have the best first day ever. So I am ready and can't wait to greet kids, teachers, and everyone on Thursday. So enjoy these next couple of nights, get into your routines as we heard, make sure you're charged up, laptops, all that good stuff, and are ready, clothes are ready, all that. And we're going to have a great first few days. So thank you, board. And that concludes my report.
I have a question. Wait, will your story be read on Facebook or on YouTube?
Sounds like both.
I will defer to the expert people on that.
Good evening, Board President Guerrero, members of the board, and Superintendent Shrum. So we'll be actually putting it on all the platforms. It'll be housed in YouTube more than likely, but we'll be posting it on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. Okay, and the website, so they can click the link if they're not on social media.
Thank
Okay.
Staff dismissal. I do want to say that there are staff that are asked to be here, and that's why I do the staff dismissal after the superintendent's report. Our next item on the agenda is our general agenda, and that's enclosure number 30 and Visalia Unified School District 2022-23 45-day budget revision.
I'm ready. Good evening, President Guerrero, members of the school board, and Superintendent Shrum, Nathan Hernandez, Business Services. And it is my pleasure to present our 45-day budget revision. This is required to come to board so that we acknowledge the adjustments in the state budget from the adopted budget signed by the governor to revisions that have happened and taken place in our budget. Now, many of the allocations have not been posted yet by the state. We're still waiting for new local control funding formula calculations to come out. So I'm going to share mostly estimates, but we have made some adjustments to the budget, and you've approved in the consent agenda the adjustments that have been made so far. So tonight we are sharing to move forward with clarity on our budget for next year. And we're going to talk a little bit about the economy and what we're seeing from both state and federal level. We'll look at the state budget and how it impacts our district budget. So some of the themes for the enacted budget, when the legislature and the governor were negotiating that final budget, they got kind of hung up on the differences between what would be ongoing versus one-time spending. And so a lot of the spending, I think there's a number there, somewhere close to, I think it's 93%, is in one-time investments. So the state is making a lot of one-time investments, but there has also been a significant increase in ongoing funding. And we'll talk about each of those as we go through. But I think what the state is seeing is kind of a plateau in state revenues going forward. So we've had a tremendous increase these last 2 years, and now they're thinking it could level off at the levels that we're at right now. And again, there's a pretty significant increase, but we can't ignore some of the signals that we're seeing in the economy. We are seeing higher inflation. We are seeing higher interest rates that go along with higher rates adopted by the feds who control that. We are seeing some slowdown in production. We've had 2 quarters now of lower gross domestic product. So we've had two quarters, which kind of signifies something, but this is kind of, what is it, a tale of two cities? It's kind of the best of times, the worst of times, because we do need to know about what's happening in the overall economy. But when we start looking at what's happening in the state budget, there are a lot of new resources this year. And a lot of that is one time, but there are significant ongoing resources as well. And so when we look at the major investments that the state has made, again, about half of this is ongoing, but you see these large parts of the pie are LCFF funding. We talked a little bit about expanded learning, a new block grant, the learning recovery block grant, and arts and music block grants, a significant portion of the state's new budget. And so as I mentioned, a lot of the funding, you see here, I think it's about 60% of the funding is in K-12 is one time. So overall state budget about 93%, K-12 about 60% is one-time investments. And when we were bringing the expanded learning plan, we talk about these investments that we're making in one-time funding. And that's things like professional development. It can be things like equipment replacement or facilities, but there are investments that need to be made that will impact our district budget going forward. And a lot of that is with one-time dollars. So this shares the differences between the original January budget proposal and then what was enacted. And so you see the 2 big pieces here are the changes in the LCFF funding. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then this learning recovery emergency block grant, which was not a January proposal or in the May budget revision. When we talk about the LCFF funding, we had the 6.56% COLA, but also included in the state budget was an additional 6.28% that was added to base funding intended to be used to address ongoing fiscal pressures like increases in our STRS and PERS rates, in minimum wage and staffing shortage and those other areas of our operational budget. So what that looks like for us, and just to some context, is 337 million in the LCFF funding. Last year's, this is about an increase of just over 30 million year over year in our LCFF funding. Again, that's our ongoing budget. The Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, again, it's estimated that this amount is about 40.8 million, and that is to be spent through 27-28. And the intent of the funding is to address all of these areas, closing learning gaps, additional academic services. So many of the things that we've been doing with ESSER funds and the original expanded learning funds can be extended by this amount of funding. And I think there'll be opportunities to look at additional types of services to close learning gaps for our students. All told, with the additional kind of one-time dollars, ESSER dollars, expanded learning and original state dollars, it's about $120 million in our budget. And because the board has been good financial stewards, and we have a reserve that's almost at the level that the cap that the state has put in place, we do need to find areas to address those areas, the learning gaps, with the additional funding that's being provided. So arts, music, and instructional materials block grant. This was also new out of the state budget. It does have a plan that has to be presented to the board, and the allowable uses, because this is a discretionary block grant, it can be used for just operational costs, but we do intend to use it as it's intended for things like instructional materials, adoptions of textbooks, as well as arts and music and programs. Mr. DeMayo talked about the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. It's about $17.7 million in our district budget. We fall under, because our unduplicated pupil percentage is less than 75%, the lower range of that funding. But again, still a significant amount of money to make, to expand that program. Universal Transitional Kindergarten, this is just a reminder, this is a program that's starting this year, but will be implemented over the next 3 years after this year. There is additional funding to provide the 12-to-1 student to adult teacher ratio that's within our LCFF funding. There is compliance around the UTK, that 12-to-1, to ensure that we stay within those ratios, because if we don't, then the state doesn't fund the entire classroom. So it's important that we make sure that the teachers are qualified to teach in those classrooms, as well as that ratio. And additionally, there was one-time monies for facilities. So there's, I think, 1.3 billion in the state's facilities bond program, the state facilities program for this fiscal year, and another 2.1 billion intended for next fiscal year. But this will give us the ability to advance some of those Measure E and Measure A projects with funding coming from the state. And then lastly, that there's additional funding for transportation. Transportation's funding has been capped since the 80s. And so this is good relief. We will have to come back with a transportation plan to present to the board. We spend more than this on transportation, and we have a general fund obligation that pays for transportation, but this will be additional ongoing funding for the district going forward. There's other funding that within the state budget, things to address the workforce investments and those kind of things, but these are some of the major areas. And with that, I'd be happy to address any questions.
Go ahead. Yeah, I just want to follow up. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez and his team. A lot of this is hot off the press, so to speak. And you heard the word plan attached to a lot of this. And so as we're learning about these funding sources, there are plans and things that are going to be attached. So we are not at what that plan is yet. And so we're going to be very careful that we read the fine print as these things get approved and finalized. We don't want to position ourselves, you know, we know these are funds that are going to be audited and all those sorts of things, right? So we have to make sure that we're spending them for what they're intended for. And I also want to keep in mind, you know, a distinguisher of sorts. So he talked about, you know, what we don't know in the next 2 to 3 years, right? And so one of the things that we are advocating for and asking and saying is we need to be able to put more of our money into reserve. You heard the cap. We're at the cap. So that doesn't help us position for several years down the road. So we're working at the state level. Let us put some more money into reserve for those sorts of reasons. So we'll see how that works out. But so it makes it kind of confusing for the public to think, well, wait a minute, if we know in a few years there's going to be this huge, possibly, right? Who knows, cliff, well, then maybe we don't need to spend all this money. So what we need to make sure everyone understand is the other pieces of money that he's talking about, the grants, the block, that has to be spent now between now and 27 or whatever the runway is to address gaps. And so we're really looking at the data as it comes in. Where do we need to invest in instructional programs? Where do we need to invest in some materials? Where could we invest in tutoring or other things that could help kids way beyond the hours of the school day? So I just wanted to make sure our public is clear that, you know, we do have to spend certain parts of this money. We can't put it aside. We can't save it, right? That has to be spent. And so, but in doing so, we're going to clearly communicate what we can spend, what we can't spend, and all those things. So I just wanted to add some clarity because it does get confusing. Well, wait a minute, maybe we need to save some of this. Well, we're saving all that we already can. And so some of these block grants have to be spent for specific purposes. And so as we come to you with proposals or what the plan is, we will be sure to clarify this is connected to this funding source so that as a board, you're making a clear decision. Oh, okay, this is this funding source. It's being spent for this and here's the plan. So I just wanted to add that clarity, and thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Questions? Ms. Gamonian.
On the money for transportation, can that money be used to help transport our after-school kids?
So the transportation for after school, if you're talking like expanded learning.
Yes.
The expanded learning funds can be used to pay for transportation. The transportation funds that will come will pay for the operational services, the operational transportation needs, just regular home to school. But there is funding for that within expanded learning.
A great teacher once said there's no such thing as a stupid question, but I'm always afraid that there's a first for everything. But unduplicated student, what does that mean?
So that's kind of like the basis for our LCFF funding is also students who, an unduplicated student is a student who qualifies as either free and reduced lunch, English learner, foster youth, homeless, but they only count once. So they might have free and reduced lunch and English learner, but we don't count twice.
I think I did know that.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. With the arts, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant, I know I sat on the VAPA committee, last school year, and we had everybody prioritize kind of, what would you like to see with this limited amount of funds that we had. Since it's a block grant, right? I understand we have some more flexibility. Would that be able to cover the cost of potential instrument replacements, art supplies, dance bars? I'm just naming off some of the things that I know we were talking about within that committee.
Yeah, definitely can be used as one-time funding. It can be used for any of those types of uses.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay.
One more question. We're still relatively, working through things, but I'm wondering if you've seen anything from the Legislative Analyst Office on how Proposition 8 might potentially mess with these numbers a little bit.
Is that the one that
The
is
music
for
funding?
music and funding?
Yes,
Yeah,
VAPA.
I haven't seen numbers on that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, then that's on the ballot in November.
Yes.
So we'll get more information as we get closer.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the public? None? We'll move on. Thank you. That was information only. We'll move on to our next item. Our next item is 10.2. Notice of intent to employ certificated personnel and approval of provisional internship permit requests, enclosure number 31. Mr. Ben Dillon, Assistant Superintendent of HRD.
Thank you, President Guerrero, members of the board, Superintendent Shrum. I just have a couple here for you this evening. So first of all, we have two teachers here, similar to last time I came to you. Both are on a current probationary status. They need just some additional time to complete their work to become intern eligible.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Gaby, second by Ms. Blair. All in favor?
Motion carries 6-1 absent.
Our next item is enclosure number 32, notice of intent to employ certificated personnel and variable term waiver request for bilingual cross-cultural language and academic development. Mr. Dillon, HRD.
Thank you. Again, similar as we brought before you, both of these teachers, I have two of them here, both dual immersion teachers, needing additional time to complete their bilingual authorization. It's a request that you approve.
Okay, we need a motion.
I'll motion.
Motion by Ms. Gaby, second by Mr. Villegas, Dr. Villegas, all in favor?
Motion carries 6-1 absent.
There are no more items on.
Yeah, the additional item that we
Oh,
added,
33.
enclosure 33.
Where do I find 33? Okay.
Excuse me,
Well, we added that to consent agenda.
that was added to the consent agenda.
Okay, we're
Action's
good.
already been taken.
Well, I saw it earlier in the consent, yeah. Okay,
Sorry, President Guerrero.
so with that, there's no more items on the agenda. This meeting is adjourned.